I trained a number of chefs during my 30 years in the kitchen, and now in the same way I'm able to teach you right here in your own home. It's all about raising the standards. So set up your laptops, sharpen your knives, and get ready to enjoy the techniques and tips from my kitchen. Okay, for this recipe we're going to make spiced Moroccan pumpkin soup, and we're going to finish it off with some croutons and a little bit of creme fraiche. So in this soup we've got some toasted cumin, I've got some toasted coriander seeds, and they've been ground, and some ground turmeric. I've got some good quality tomato paste, so it's an Italian style tomato paste, a little bit of butter just for sweating off the vegetables, some garlic, some onion, a leek, and obviously the pumpkin. So I'm going to start with the croutons, and with the croutons we can use sort of any bread, but stale bread is something that we tend to throw away, so it's quite a good option to use, have the option to use some nice or some stale bread that we'll probably throw away. So just pop those in a bowl, and don't dice them up too big, otherwise they become too big for the soup and you can't fit them in your mouth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to season everything. Okay, some sea salt and some fresh ground pepper. Even the croutons get seasoned. And then just a little bit of, I've just got canola oil here. Don't need to use olive oil if we're baking it in the oven. And then just use your hands and just toss them around so you get the croutons nice and evenly coated. So they're nice and they're all coated. And throw it into your tray, oven tray. Leave the oven should be on about 175 to 200 degrees Celsius. Okay, spread them out so they're not all on top of each other, otherwise they're going to cook unevenly. So into the oven. Okay, now we're going to prepare our pumpkin. Now quite often people find it difficult to cut a large vegetable. So first of all, what you need is a good sharp knife. So I'm going to use my cook's knife, and you make sure that it's your big knife, because that's easier, it's heavier, it's easier to use. Make sure it's sharp. Okay, keep the pumpkin flat side down, flat surface, so it's not going to roll around. And then just start it halfway down the pumpkin and just make a sawing action and just take off small amounts at a time. If you find that too big, just cut it in half, do a smaller piece. Just always cut away from you. You don't want to end up stabbing yourself. So we've got a crown pumpkin here, and I find them the best pumpkin to use. They've got the most flavour, and they tend to hold the body. They have a much better body in them, so there's a little bit thicker soup, so you can easier to control the consistency of it that way. And when I talk about consistency, I'm talking about the thickness of the soup, making sure that it's not too thin. So, just last little bits in there. So now I'm going to cut these into smaller pieces for cooking. So the smaller that we dice it, the quicker the soup will cook. So make sure the surface is nice and flat. Just use your hand on top of the knife to stop it from rocking around, otherwise you might twist in your hand and cut yourself. So cut the pumpkin into even sized pieces, and that way they will cook at the same time. So this soup's going to feed around probably feed about 10 people. Now I've got my stock sitting on the stove behind me. Just remember that when you're making anything using stock, make sure the stock is good quality, because that's what makes a good soup or a good foundation to any product at all in the kitchen. Okay, so we've got the pumpkin, and now we're going to slice up this onion. So just remember, keep the tip of the knife on the board and just that gentle rocking motion. When it gets too high or too large, just turn it over and carry on and make it easy for yourself. Put the onion back into our little bowl. And same with the leek. Just split it down the middle. Just make sure there's no dirt inside and just give it a quick wash. Sometimes the dirt gets laid in between the layers of the leek, so this one looks pretty good. So shake off any excess water. And again, just keep the tip of the knife on the board. Keep your fingers out of the way. Back into your container. These are all good products for getting good foundation for any soup or any stock. And we're just going to crush our garlic, or just roughly chop it. Because it's a puree soup, we don't have to be too fussy. It's a really simple soup to make, and you can, once you've made this, you'll be able to change the pumpkin for, say, parsnip or potato or a vegetable that you like. So you can, it's just a foundation soup, and you can actually adapt it to whatever flavour that you want to make. Okay, so as I said, we want to sweat the vegetables, so just in with the butter. Any soup you make, really, you need to use good quality ingredients. And I mean, soup's not a rubbish bin. We need to use good ingredients, so when we make the soup, we end up with a good quality product that we're going to enjoy. So the butter's just about melted. We can go in with our onion and our leek and our chopped garlic. So now what we're trying to achieve here is we're trying to sweat the vegetables. And what we call sweating is cooking something with that colour. And all vegetables have got natural sugars in them, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to extract those, and that's where we're going to develop a flavour. Anybody can throw everything into a pot and boil it, and you're not going to get the same amount of flavour. There's no depth of flavour, very short on the palate. So if you make the soup this way, you'll end up with a much more flavoursome soup. Now the other thing you never want to do is you don't want to season the soup until it's finished, because you can lose volume with the reduction, and if you pre-season it, you'll end up with a salty soup. The other thing that you want to be sure about is your spices are good quality. You see a lot of people store their spices in glass jars on the windowsill. They don't last too long in the sun. So if you're going to store them in dark containers, so the sun's not getting through. The ultraviolet light just ruins the flavour. So we want to cook these spices. Once we've got the soup to a stage where it's nicely sweated, we want to cook these spices. If we don't cook them, we also won't get that depth of flavour. You can see the colour starting to come out in the vegetables, and that's just through gentle cooking. Okay, it's about now we can add these spices, so I'm just going to add the coriander seeds and the cumin and our turmeric. So these have all been just lightly toasted in a pan and then ground. You can use a mortar and pestle or a spice grinder if you have one. We're just going to cook these out for a couple of minutes. You can really smell the aroma coming off the spices now. It's taking on a really good flavour. So in with the tomato paste. And this is going to give it a really richness to the soup. And again, we have to cook the tomato paste, and that just brings out the flavour even more so. So we're at the stage now where we've just got to cook a couple of minutes more. We're going to add the pumpkin, top it up with the stock, and then leave it to simmer for probably about 40 to 45 minutes until the pumpkin's tender, and then we can blend it or liquidize it. If you're going to use a liquidizer, make sure you cool the liquid before you liquidize it, because it can blow the lid off. Okay, so we're going to add the pumpkin. Okay, just coat the pumpkin with the spices and the onion, just to give it a really nice flavour before we add the stock. We need to add that stock right away before they start burning. So what we do now is just leave that to cook until it's, as I say, until it's tender, and then we can liquidize it and pass it, and then check the seasoning once it's finished. Okay, we're just going to go over and check the soup, and it looks like it's nicely ready. We've cooked the pumpkin until it's nice and tender. All those flavours, I can smell the flavours are really nice and rounded. So I'm just going to use a stick blender. You can use a liquidizer, as I said before, and we're just going to blend this until it's nice and smooth. Which may take a little bit of time to speed this thing going. Okay, that should be enough. What we'll do now is I'll pass that through the sieve into a clean bowl. I always use a cloth to pick up the pot because it could be hot. And just do a little bit at a time. So the best way to do this is to use a ladle and just make little circles and push that through. So try and get all that meat through there, all that flesh of the pumpkin. So just little circles, and it should eventually go through. And all the any fibre that's left, we can discard. So it's a little bit there. So I just want to discard that in between. And just mix that puree into the stock itself, so you don't end up with a nice smooth consistency like that. That's a really good consistency. So now we're going to check the seasoning. So we're going to put some salt in, so it does need a wee bit of salt. And I'm going to use white pepper for this. I don't want any little black specks in the soup itself. So I'll check the seasoning again. A wee bit more salt, and that should do it. So from here I'm just going to add a wee bit of dash of cream. That'll just help to soften that flavour, that pumpkin flavour, and just give it a little bit of richness at the end. So I've got my soup ready to go. I'm going to take the croutons from the oven, nice and golden brown. You need to make sure that they've got lots of colour. You don't want them to be insipid. So nice and crispy, and that's what gives the soup its texture as well. And pretty much we're all ready to go. So just remember, always heat your bowl up, or a plate that you're serving your food on or in. Just give it a couple of seconds in the oven, and then we can serve it. Just a little bit more than a ladle. And then you're going to put a nice spoonful of creme fraiche onto the soup. That'll just break that colour as well a little bit. And just a spoonful of croutons, and they can just go on top, just like that. Just a couple of sprigs of parsley. And that is our spiced Moroccan pumpkin soup. Do try it at home. It's a really nice soup. You can change the ingredients to suit yourself, and do try it. Bon appetit.